Yeah, so this is going to be Project Herpetoculture. I think this is 96, episode 96 with Nick Sloan, right? Nick,
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
no, of course. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So for folks who may not know who you are, can you tell us how you fit into herpetoculture?
Sloan. Regionally, Sloan Reptiles is who I've been for 20. This is our 24th breeding year. Um, Mostly ball pythons, but hit my 47th species that we've bred this last year. So uh, keep a lot of that not really posted all the time, and I've been posting it more lately. But that's how I fit in, and I've been in as like a really big presence, and then I've been in as a very like back burner presence, and then in a apparently really big presence now with which is now All American Reptile and Plant Expo. So that's who I am.
Nice. Okay, great. And so how did herpetoculture start for you in your life? Was this like for a lot of us where it started as a kid, and was it dinosaurs? How did it happen? Did you run into a turtle somewhere?
I was two, and I was in the backyard, and most of us always think like, is this memory really me, or is this
Yeah.
something that my parents are like telling me and I'm envisioning it?
Yeah.
But like this, I know it was me because like I'll bring it up to my parents and bring up like things like I'm like, oh, this like there was a stump of a tree that they had cut down, and I was like, yeah, I caught the garter snake next to this stump of a tree, and they're like, I don't even. I don't even remember cutting that tree down, but you telling me that that tree was cut down, I remember it. So like, I caught this garter snake at 2, and my parents were. My mom likes animals. My dad is from Scotland, so there's not a whole lot of
Oh,
animals that they deal with. So he's always been like sort of hesitant to the animals and snakes, and
okay.
so they were like, "We're gonna buy you a snake, so you don't go catch a rattlesnake and kill yourself in the backyard." So that's where it started and the obsession started. And it was a California king snake that they bought me, which of all snakes to buy a 3-year-old child, a California king snake is probably not it. But
Yeah.
I had
I
him
mean,
for
there are worse choices, right?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was bitey. He was a bitey California king. I had him for about 19 years. So
Whoa, you had him for 19 years. That's
yeah,
excellent. Wow.
yeah,
That's quite
yeah,
impressive. That's
yeah.
so that's interesting because I feel like it's a pretty it's a I guess I don't know for sure, but it seems like most of the people who I ask this kind of question, or when we talk about their first reptile, it's like I feel like there's 3 scenarios. Either A, it died right away because I didn't know what I was doing. B, it didn't live that long because I didn't know what I was doing. Or
Yeah.
C, I had it from the day that I got it till, and it lived a long life of 19 somehow. So why do you think that is? Why was it something that stuck for you and lasted?
I actually like had this conversation the other day with people because like obviously we're in sort of like a not a fluctuating period of the reptile industry, and like people are getting out that have gotten in recently and all that, and like someone's talking to me about someone getting out, they're like, oh, I didn't think they'd get out, and I was like, I honestly like it's not to speak to myself because like we'll probably Troy likes to make jokes about me having a little bit of autism with reptiles and all that, so, but like this is just who I am. So like I think because I was 2 years old and I was like, oh, this is a snake. I like it. This is what I want. So at like 3, I cared about taking care of. Well, obviously at 3 years old, I didn't really take care of the snake that much myself. But like I love these animals so much that like I think that's why I was able to keep that snake around for as long as I did, because as I aged, I wanted to take care of everything, and like I always took care of everything that I had once I hit that certain age. I can't, I was 3. I didn't run to the store and buy a pinky rat for a California king snake, but and they're also, the California king snakes are just hardy. Like that's probably a lot of it too. Like I feel like you can just throw anything at them and they're fine.
They're super tough. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things are pretty bulletproof. That makes sense. So then at what point would you say in your life, like how old were you when it started to take on more of a, I don't know, like let's say like from a business perspective, like when did it go from being something you were doing at what one might consider a hobby scale, and then what did the transition to doing it more for like this is the thing I want to do for a living?
Yeah.
How did that go?
So I like collected stuff throughout the years. And I think I was probably, what was it? It was 2002,
Mhm.
2001. What's 24 years ago now is 2001.
Yeah.
I bred some garter snakes accidentally.
Mhm.
Caught them, kept them, like did a little like vivarium type thing, and walked in there one day, and there's a bunch of babies crawling
Sure.
around, and I was like,
Sure.
"Oh, this is awesome! I really want to do this." And then the next thing was bearded dragons.
Yep.
Um, and the first time I started selling anything was 2004, and so we had gone to a reptile show here in Colorado, the Rocky Mountain Reptile Show, and went in, and I had told my parents, like, I really want to get and I didn't know what it was called at the time because I was young. I was like, a pastel ball python.
Oh yeah,
Um,
pastel.
and so I was like, I want a pastel. And I said that to one of the breeders that was there, and he laughed because, like, it's pastel. But it was $1,000 pastel male. And my parents were like, okay, like, this is a lot of money for this, but you've shown and proved that you want to do this, like, that you want to do that. So produced a collection 2004 from that, and from there it was just like
Off to the races.
it's not gonna stop.
So you were how old again?
So when I
Oh, uh-oh. We lost you there. Oh, we're back. Okay. Yep, now we're back.
apparently my internet is being funky today.
That's okay.
Yeah,
We'll edit it out. It's no big deal.
yeah. So I would have been 11 years old
11. Okay. 11 years old. And
for the
so,
first breeding of selling anything. So like the first time I bred anything, I was math. I've been doing too much math today. Uh, I think I was seven or
okay,
eight.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. So then, tell me a little bit about it could be an overview if you like, but what did the process look like? So you say, okay, you got this pastel ball python, you bred it the next year, and you were off to the races. But there was a point between when you were 12 years old and you bred that ball python for the first time, and let's say just before All American came into the picture. So how did that happen? Like what was the experience for you going from like, okay, I do this in the house, but now I'm going to do it somewhere else. And like, how does all that happen?
The long story short of like how it became a business. So Sloan Reptiles supported the entire family, like brothers. So I've got two brothers and a sister, and then my parents. And so Sloan Reptiles, from when I was 15 until I was 22, supported the entire Sloan family. So we started breeding stuff, had like cool projects that we'd gathered throughout, from 12 until 15, like 3-year period. We'd gone to a bunch of shows and bought stuff because, like, my parents were like, oh, we see that you're selling this, like, let's reinvest into it for you a little bit. And like, I'd sell stuff and buy stuff, and
So
had a bunch.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No.
they were like, your parents were quite involved and hands-on from the jump. Like they didn't just let you kind of take and run with this and like, who cares? We'll see what happens. They were getting
So
involved.
they were involved in like the growth, I think, of it, but not in like the day to day. I mean, like my mom was involved in a lot of the day to day. So like we had a bearded dragon project that she did, and like we ended up producing like 1,000 bearded dragons a year at one point. And so that we had a whole thing going there. But so she liked those kind of animals, and like she liked the snakes, but that was sort of mine. And Justin, who's my brother, he jumped into it too, and like sort of followed suit and was like really excited about it. So that period was it built up to like 15 years old. We were selling stuff. It wasn't really supporting anything. It was just like, hey, this is a hobby. It's selling and doing that. And then by the time I was 16, like a lot of stuff had happened in life. Like my mom had a botched surgery and all that. And they had seen that the money was there for the snakes. So they were like, okay, well, we just won this lawsuit against the surgeon. Like, we'll help invest.
Okay.
And so bought a bunch of ball pythons. We had all of our other projects still sort of there, but like they were always pet projects that weren't, money makers. So this was like 2008, 2009, when the
Okay.
market for ball pythons was like just popping.
Yeah, yeah.
And we we bought into like a really high end project, bought a bunch of new stuff, and then just from there, it was, our first champagne was $9,000, but in its first year that it produced, it made us $300,000.
Sure. Wow.
So
Right.
like that pushed us into like okay, now we're making stuff that like no one's made. As far as genetic mutations, which now it doesn't, I could care less. Like if ball python pops out, I'm like, who knows? Maybe it's the world's first, and it goes into our back. Like I love all reptiles. Like that's the hard thing. Like there's not a
Sure.
species that I'm like, oh, that's garbage because of this.
Oh
Like,
yeah, no, no, yeah, no, no, not at
and
all.
then like I think some people like to do that, and I'm like, that's silly. Like if you're in this passionately, like none of
Yeah,
these I hate. I just may not keep something.
yeah, yeah. Like I think I don't think there's any like substantive or moral difference between a ball python or a Boelen's python or a fence lizard and a green tree monitor or a cave gecko versus a Naltinus gecko from or not yeah from New Zealand. Like it's all cool animals, man. Like there's no just because they're rare in context here doesn't mean they're not like an epically interesting
Well,
animal.
it's like a Fiji island iguana, right? Like those things
Yeah.
breed like bearded dragons in Europe, but we can't have them here.
Oh,
So it's
dude.
like they're we think they're really cool, and then in Europe they're like, ugh, like
Listen, I'll tell you, I've been making this joke for a few months now, but like if Canada becomes the 51st state, I'm getting me some Fiji iguanas, bro. Like, let's
oh,
go. Like, I'll vote for that. I will be a single issue voter. If I can get, if I can, you tell me I can get a Fiji banded iguana, I will vote you in, dude. I will,
yes.
you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's like Naltinus too, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
I think I was on, Troy was on, we used to do the podcast Late to the Mic with Patrick, and we were on that, and we were talking about like, if not, some Naltinus just showed up here, like, what are you going to do? Which there are some here now, but there's not like what's the subspecies that's like super rare? It's like the rough neck one.
There's a few of them. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
that Naltinus, that whole genus has some
Yeah.
nutty look. They're just some of the most beautiful geckos I've ever seen. To me,
Oh, yeah.
they look like what nature thought Christmas is supposed to look like. You know, it's just they're just so amazing. Like they're so special, so beautiful, so weird, so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe one day, but not right now. That's for sure. But
No.
okay,
No.
that's super interesting. I think it's pretty unique that your parents felt like getting not just investing and not just but like being a part of it on some level. That's pretty different. So I mean, my guess is that probably is related to the promise and the dedication that you showed to it. Because if you'd just been fucking off and leaving it in the cage in the corner, they probably wouldn't have done a damn thing.
Well,
And
no,
so
guarantee.
I
I
think
mean,
that's
if
cool.
if
Yeah.
I killed the first three animals that I ever got, or every single time I was like, I'm gonna go buy a box turtle, and I killed it or
Yeah.
it got out, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guarantee they wouldn't have ever thought like, oh, they can do this. And there was a period of time where we drove to all the NERBCs. Like
Yeah.
we would go to, and we went to Daytona. So we would drive to Daytona, then we drive to Tinley, and then Arlington and Anaheim, and it was
Yeah.
just so much back and forth for a period of time there. And then is the market fluctuated and went down, and we were, that was paying the bills for six people. We transitioned into like, okay, let's start something that we can do but still take care of everything and have the things that we have. So we had a construction company going at the same time. And
Oh
then
wow.
like, yeah.
Wow.
And that was well, not at the same time. By the time I was, how long I've been doing this now? Been installing Windows for 12 years, or doing the window company for 12 years, but like 15 years of doing construction.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
yeah.
So then it's interesting because I think sometimes we'll hear about say like one spouse that is a reptile keeper and another spouse that is not. Or like in my case, when my family was supportive, they would let me have animals, but like there was not much explicit encouragement to take it further, to bring it to another level or grow it. You know what I mean? In fact, it might have been sort of passive encouragement in the other direction, like I think
do something else.
my father's changed his mind now. He sees it's good work, but I think for a while he thought it was just some stupid dead end that wasn't going to go anywhere. And he wasn't going to say that because he wanted to be nice to me. But anyway, the whole thing I'm trying to get to here is there's all these frictions that can come up either between your spouse and the keeper, or between you and your family. Things can come together, but when it's the whole family doing the work, somehow if everyone's participating, I'm guessing that tensions still arise, but they might look different. So
Yes.
maybe without getting perhaps too personal or private, are there ways that different interests in the family kind of affected the way you guys operated, or what do you think of that?
Like, my dad's always been entrepreneurial, so he came over here and he met my mom on cruise ships when they were both working on cruise ships, and then they came over here, and he started a coffee roaster. It was one of the fastest growing businesses in Denver in 1996 or something like that, and he sold that. We moved to Arizona for a little while, for 3 years, came back, and he just always kept doing coffee roasting. But that I don't think he loved the physical aspect of it, and the growth aspect of it. So we had a coffee roaster going at the same time inside of our building on the property as the snakes right next to it. But then he was like, I'm just going to sell it. I don't need it anymore. And it's just too much work for me to do and not hire people and all that. So we actually turned that into the rat facility there, and had that going for a little while. But he's always been entrepreneurial, but he's not really into the snakes. He would take care of stuff while we were gone, and hey, we need you to pull this clutch or that. And we'd come back, he'd be like, oh, it bit me. Did it really bite you? And he's like, yeah, look, it's right there. And nothing on his hand. And I'm like,
seems like you're fine, bro.
Yeah, it seems fine. And if I got bit, so we had a period where we had a lot of carpets, and I had one carpet that just freaking wrecked me constantly. Yeah. And it grabbed on and just latched and wrapped, and I couldn't get it off, and I'm just gushing blood because it's decoagulated. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to put this underwater to make it stop. And he's just like, what do I do? What do I do? Freaking out. And I'm no, that's not.
Yeah.
So he helped ensure that we were capable of driving to Tinley. What's funny enough, the first time I drove to Tinley by myself, I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had driven together multiple times, and then it was all right, well, now you guys are good and you can go. Yeah. But he took us, he flew us to Arlington to buy some stuff from Bob Clark, and we did a bunch of stuff. So it was, long time ago we helped do that. And then my mom helped a lot with taking care of stuff when we were gone, which obviously we're doing this full time. I'd hope that everything was taken care of well. Yeah. 4-5 days is not the end of the world for a ball python. She doesn't have to do much, but she would go in and take care of stuff. And then she took care of the bearded dragons, mostly because that was what she wanted to have a huge project of. Okay. But she also always thought she sort of anthropomorphized them. So she thought we had a Cuban rock iguana that she thought was, oh, he's sweet and great. And she stuck her hand in the cage, just chomped right on her hand. So she's always been that one, oh, my babies. So the rats were really hard for her and all that. Yeah. Then the younger siblings helped with cleaning, but not. I mean, they were young. They were always young. So my brother Justin helped, obviously, because we were in it together. But then my next brother is 5 years younger than me. So 16 years old doing this. He's 11. So he has no real interest in the reptiles or anything like that. So he's like, you guys do your thing, have fun. And then my sister helps with tickets to the show now, but she helps then. Okay. So
gotcha. Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, it's funny. So I also think that it's unique. I think a lot of the people that I meet through doing the podcast now, and then of course going to the shows, is I'm finding, a mix of people. There are people who seemed industrious from the jump, people who they clearly understood from the get-go that this could be a business if they treated it a particular way. Maybe they're sort of inclined that way. Maybe they had some previous experience. It sounds like with your entrepreneurial father, that helped you kind of understand from the jump that this is an operation and there's a way to make it work. I think that's interesting because, for me personally, I didn't have that sense at all. Like again, most of what I saw was sort of actively discouraged on some level, like again, I love my family and they've let me do a lot of crazy shit. So I owe them a debt of extreme gratitude. But I'm saying more at a young age, because like when I started, it was like seventh grade. By the time the middle of high school rolled around, I was like, all I want to do is talk about lizards. Like this is the only thing. I was writing all my reports on lizards, like finding any way, any excuse I could to fit lizards into everything else I was doing. And it was this thing that was kind of like pushed aside a little bit. And it wasn't until much, much later that it seemed like something that could be done, genuinely done for a living. And something I spend a lot of time thinking about now is, and this is probably a separate topic, and I talk about it enough on the show as it is, but it is the ways in which herpetoculture, could look to koi or aquaculture or aviculture, some of these other sort of domesticate companion animal markets that are maybe a little bit ahead of us, and maybe they've been around for a little bit longer than Oh, I think I lost you again. Oop, maybe I'll wait.
It
Okay,
frozen,
there we go. We're back again. That's
but it
fine.
shows me at full bars. So that was
I
all.
got you. I got you.
Yeah.
You're back now. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I heard you the whole time.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah, you
good.
just froze.
Okay, cool. See, and on my end, it was you that froze. So maybe this will just overlap in the recording. We'll see. We got a good thing I have a guy who edits the video now because I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. But
I'd have zero idea.
I have
And
no
I'm sorry. I don't know why it's being funky. It's going up and down on like the bars. So it's weird.
If it was live, it would be like a lot more of a pickle, but it's whatever, bro. It's all good. But so I spend a lot of time kind of harping on this sort of domesticate, companion animal framework and sort of what it means. But part of what I admire when I watch some of these documentary type films on people who do koi or betas or whatever is there's just it seems like it's probably a byproduct of the fact that the only people I'm seeing are people who are doing it for a living, right? I'm not seeing like all the little people keeping it, but it just seems like there's a big number of very industrious people. And in herpetoculture, I'm amazed at the kind of industriousness that's come out of the woodwork over the last, like 5-6 years, probably since COVID, right? It's like all of a sudden everybody's like, fine, fuck it, I'm doing a podcast. Because they're like, I can't go to work. I'm just going to do a podcast now, or whatever it is. But I think it's a good thing. Like I want more people in herpetoculture thinking about it like a business operation,
I think that's what like turns it to like legitimize it towards like the laws and the things that change is that if there's a legitimate backing of people that are doing things correctly, doing things with processes and making it into businesses, like not only is it a business, like, but they're also taking care of the animals that they have. So like we can't just have like people get in, they're like, oh, I can move as many as I possibly can and do that. Like they still want to take care of them. So that's 100% like the koi aquatic side of things, which obviously the hard part of like saltwater aquatic is most of that's just wild caught anyways, still, because like the breeding of that's really hard. But so I don't want that to be a cross correlation there of ours to salt. Like we certainly want to have less wild caught animals. Like really in reality, what hopefully the production in the reptile industry would be is if there's a species that's brought in wild caught new, it would go to somebody that has that industrious mindset and that can bring it into scale and bring it to the like Frank Payne is a perfect example of somebody that's bringing in like species that are traditionally not bred very extensively in the industry and being like, oh, I want these to be more common. I want Lacerta agilis to be more common. I want
minor, whatever.
Yeah, Williams eye to be way more common because they were almost extinct in the wild. And he's like, I've produced like 1,000 now. So like that's I think one of the really cool things of like what started to transition is that there are people that are doing things like Armin, Herp Time. Like, like bringing in a different style of ways to get that done.
Yeah, both of those guys have been guests on this show too, which is pretty cool. It's so nice. There's so I feel like seeing people do that kind of thing. I find it really inspiring, because you know, really, we have this tendency to say things like, well, and I've said, again, this is another thing I've talked about before, but, you get people who post a photo of like a price list from 30 years ago. And they're like, oh,
Mm.
those are the good old days. And I'm like, hold on. Let me just
They
slow you.
all died.
Not the good old days. Yeah. This was a rough era,
Mhm.
like I think right now is like a big renaissance, like of some kind for herpetoculture, seeing this thing go global and like, I know it's been global for longer than I've been in it, but I mean like global, like these guys
Yes.
going to shows in China. You're
Yep.
like, and I recently wrote a little bit about a piece on my Patreon about how, right now the United States is sort of like the epicenter of herpetoculture
Yeah.
globally. Arguably Europe was the epicenter of herpetoculture globally for a while. It's the US
Laws,
now.
laws, and that change that there. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of economists and sociologists that use this term, the global South, right, which just sort of refers to nations that like the roughly southern nations that are all like kind of on the come up economically, right? And so I wrote a hypothetical piece about how in 50 years time, perhaps the epicenter of herpetoculture is not here, it's somewhere none of us
yeah.
expect, like India, right? Like I in the last few years I've been getting messages on my Instagram from folks in like Korea, Japan, for a long time, Taiwan. But for the first time over the last few years, I started getting messages from India, from Indonesia and the Philippines, right? From South America, from
So
Mexico.
I think what like probably part of what that does is or where that's coming from is like as a nation or an area of nations, obviously, because like there's certain Europe is very tight knit and close, even though they're all a bunch of different countries.
Yeah,
But I think it's as they become like wealthier, they have more ability to have sort of like a freedom to do things that are not necessarily to make sure that their livelihood continues, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. Yep.
go keep a ball python while I'm just here in
Yeah,
Colorado and I'm just like wanting to keep a pet reptile. Like that's just like there's no reason for that. There's no need for me to keep this
yeah,
other than the fact that I like it. But in a lot of nations where that's not a possibility, you can't say, let me spend an extra amount of money to take care of this animal
yeah,
that doesn't matter to me. So like I think as a nation starts to grow into the economic ability to do that and have sort of like a disposable income that they can do that, that's where it starts to turn into like, oh, Korea is starting to get really into herpetoculture because I can do that. Like
yeah.
then the industrious people that are in
Yeah.
industry elsewhere are like, oh, I'm going to transition into this.
Yeah, yeah. Totally. I mean, that's kind of what the argument around the global South is that they all have these growing middle classes, a growing leisure class, right? So I mean, it's like ripe for companion animals. Yeah. So I mean, and I think that this is like a net good.
Oh yeah.
Like I think like we had Josh Marquis on a long time ago, and he brought up a note at some point that like, I think it's more ethical to sell an animal for like, let's say 20 grand rather than $25.
Yes.
Because if you spend 20 grand on an animal, you're going to make sure it doesn't die.
Yeah.
Like you're going to do what you need to do to keep the thing happy and
Well,
healthy.
that's dogs. That's dogs
Yeah.
and cats, right? Like dog pedigrees that are very bred to be hunters, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to spend 5 grand on a dog. You're gonna take care of that dog. You're not gonna go kick that dog every single time that
Yeah.
it pisses you off, like that kind of thing. Like, and
Sure.
so you can't. As the industry moves that way, we can't have $15 animals
Yeah.
where we're just disposable. Like
Yeah.
I can go buy. You can hardly go to Starbucks for $15.
Yeah.
Like
Unless you just get one coffee, like a
yeah,
small coffee, then
yeah,
you're under 10, maybe, you
yeah.
know?
So like you're wanting an animal that costs as much as your coffee.
Yeah.
That's half the time you don't drink all of.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that going back to the way that the middle this aggregate middle class is growing all across the world. Um, in that piece that I wrote, I was also talking about how conceivably you could have you might have like a very different landscape of what like the species landscape might look really, really different because you might have someone start up somewhere again in the Philippines
Oh, yeah.
or Venezuela or where the hell ever. And they'll be like, there's this weird little, or Brazil, right? Like how many cool herps are in Brazil
Oh,
that like we just don't have, right? But like as soon as someone there gets industrious with it, finds a market for it because there's a growing middle class there, and then all of a sudden we can get them to the United States, and now people here have them, and it grows in a way.
that's where I wonder if like you could evolve laws inside the U.S. itself too, right? If the rest of the world is beginning to do stuff like there's a oh my gosh, Pertasi in Indonesia. Breeding tree monitors in Indonesia and then sending them over here. Breeding croc monitors, which obviously like there's a very select few people that should have croc monitors. I can not because I have a croc monitor.
They select few.
You do not need to have a croc monitor. Most people don't need to. But these people are starting to breed these things that are being imported in the thousands and in the droves that die on the way here. Then they die with like right as they get here, and then they die in the hands of people that are wanting to get into something. And that's also what really sort of slows down our industry. Is someone comes to one of my shows, and that's where I try to make sure that we vet our vendors as best we can. I can't know every person that I possibly can, but like if someone walks up and buys a Gary Eurymastix and it's fresh import and it dies within a week, that ruins that spark. Like, oh, I don't know if I like this. I really liked that animal, but I killed the $25 import animal that I bought.
Yeah.
Like, it cost me more to get all this junk for it. Like, I'm not going to buy anything else. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And you kill that hobbyist heart that's there.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with that. I think this is a good time now actually to bring up the show. So let me just give a little bit of a preamble because I think it's worth it. So I attended the occasional reptile show when I was younger. Like I grew up here in Colorado too, and my parents would take me once in a while. I've maybe gone to 3 when I was a kid at some, and so and even though I had animals, I knew, my parents knew that if they took me, I was going to make them come home with one. So I think they just maybe never took me. Right. So I went a few times, usually with other people, with friends, and it was fun and it was great. It was whatever. And then vended 1 or 2 when I worked at Reptilian Haven, 1 or 2 shows where we, vended and we did a little bit, but that was it. And I don't really remember much of that. But then, and then you obviously, you started up, during this time frame. All Americans started during sometime in this time frame. I'm sure you'll tell me the exact year at some point, but started up, and I started seeing them happen, and I started seeing ads for it. And I think I spoke with either you or Troy at some point early on about going, and I just didn't have anything, and so I didn't go. But then eventually, it happened, and so I went. I did one show in one of the October shows, and then went to Tinley either before or after. I can't remember.
September last year, and so we're October now. But we had you came to
the October in Castle Rock.
I think you came to April. Yeah, you only came to
That's
April.
yes.
April.
And then previously, before that, I went to Tinley, and so I had been. I went to Tinley. And I was blown away because I've just never been to these major shows before. I just had no idea the scope of this on some level. And but now I've been to multiple, and I still have lots of experience left to garner and whatever. But like, what I can say is that I've only ever vended properly your show, and it's a breeze. Like it's just it couldn't be easier. It's great. It's super straightforward. It's well organized. So like. Tell me how All American came to be and sort of like what the state of it is right now.
Yeah. So I can tell you, as I grew up in this industry, I was like, I will never do a reptile show.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like that's so much work. It's so much chaos. Like the people you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then so Reptilian Nation was here originally. Well, obviously we have other shows. We have RepsCon and Show Me and all that, but Reptilian Nation was like the big show that everyone like went to, was excited about. And when the venue that they were in got sold to become a homeless shelter, he was like, I'm not coming back. There's not a really good venue in Colorado that I want to go to, so I'm not going to come back. And I was like, well, now there's not really good show. Like, we should get a show going. So Lauren and I started talking about it, and like, all right, let's mull it over and look at the venues, find what we can find. And we're like, all right, where are the gun shows? Where are this? Like, try to find that, because the Colorado Convention Center is just, it's out. That's not good for vendors, not good for attendees. Like, I'm not going to charge $1,000 to my vendors for a 10 by 10 booth, and I'm not going to charge $55 to my attendees to come, and they have to pay $20 to park. That's insane. Like,
It's also not nice. Like, it's not
No.
a nice facility, you know?
no,
Like a
no, it's not nice
place.
enough to be like, let's spend that much money, because I don't even know how much it costs. It's probably $100,000 for the size that we would need.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's too much. And I can tell you that because of where we're at now. So, so we start talking about it. Troy comes through town to go to Pomona, and we have breakfast. And he's like, "Hey, so Reptilian Nation is gone." I was like, "Yeah, you know." And he's like, "Do you know anyone that's trying to do it?" And I was like, "I might." And he was like, "Well, let me know. Like, I'd help." And I was like, "All right, well, I could probably use somebody that travels around is a lot more than I do nowadays. Like, I don't go to all these shows anymore, and I go to Tinley and I go to a couple of them occasionally, but I don't travel as much as he does. He's a road warrior. I don't know how he does it. I can't drive that much." And so we're like, okay, let's start to talk about it. And we find Castle Rock, Douglas County Fairgrounds. We're like, all right, this is the biggest venue in Colorado that isn't the Colorado Convention Center and like the National Western Complex, but that's garbage as well. And
A lot of the jiu-jitsu tournaments at the National Western Complex, and it's gross.
yeah, and they like want a percentage of vendors like money that they make, and it's like, that's no. So we found Douglas County. We go in, and they're like, we're so booked up. Like, there's zero chance you're going to get a date. Like, we have 25-year contracts, and we're like, okay, well, like, let us know. And she sends us an email and goes, I don't know how I found this date, but I have April this year. We're like, and this was February. So February 2024, we're talking about stuff. And she has April 26 dates. Yeah. And we're like, okay, well, I think we could do it. And so on February 15th, we said, all right, we got a show. Okay. We announced it, put it out there, sent stuff to a bunch of people, all that. And by April 26th, we had a full show. Everybody was there, and our first show was phenomenal. Like, we were figuring out advertising, right? Like, does radio still, is that a thing? Do people listen to radio still? Like, there's no billboards in Colorado. I don't know if you ever pay attention. There's not a whole lot. Hardly. So like, and when I asked for money on that, like, there's one off I-25. It's $16,000 for 4 weeks. And so like, billboard? Yeah, for a billboard. And so I'm like, I couldn't get that many people through. So our first show had 5,500 people through the door in Colorado. It's a 32,000 square foot room. And I can tell you, like, from now knowing numbers, that I know numbers a little bit better at other shows now. I'm like, okay, this is what this number probably truly is. Sure. There's not a whole lot of shows that do 10,000 people. Pomona Super Show, that's a wild amount of people. Like, if I could get into a population like California, that'd be amazing. But Rami's done a great job there. I'm never going to go into there and try to fight with him. That's not a thing. But so we do Castle Rock, and then we're like, okay, that was really cool. Like, that went really well. And so we've talked to a bunch of people, and they're like, well, why you should come out to the Carolinas, or you should go here, you should go there. And through that process, we went to Charlotte. The only reason that we're not going back to Charlotte is because the venue is just terrible. And they've been terrible to communicate with. Like, our original dates, he messed up. We couldn't keep those dates, so we had to switch the dates. And then the next time, I didn't get a contract for the show in April until 2 weeks before the show happened. And
oh my God, dude.
Then I was supposed to have a contract for this September. Never heard from anybody until the week before. They said, we think we messed up. Oh, yeah, you did.
Oh, fuck.
So that's a fun thing that we get to deal with in that. So, like, in the Charlotte area, that's the only venue that's in Charlotte proper. And we try to stay, like, a little bit closer to where, like, the cities are. Like, you know, Castle Rock's a little bit outside of Denver, but we want to, like, stay a little bit closer where that is. We don't want to be an hour and a half away from
Sure.
where we're trying to call our show. That's just not, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So Charlotte's fallen away from there, but it was a really phenomenal show. Like we had a lot of people through the door. The market just doesn't have a ton of money there, which is very unique and interesting when you can get 6,000 people through the door and they're not spending money. You're like, this is just weird. Like we don't want to do that to vendors either. Hey, keep coming out and not making money. Like,
Right.
you know, I don't want to have 6,000 to 10,000 people for my pocketbook. I want them to work for you too. Like that's not the reason we're doing these shows, to be like, oh, I just get to pocket money. I want the vendors to do well because
Right.
that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to do well when I was vending a show.
Mhm.
And so that was the push. So we did Charlotte, then we did Kansas City, which is another market that we're like trying to figure out because it just seems they don't want to spend money there either.
Okay.
But then this next 2025 is now launched into, we've got Castle Rock, Scottsdale, Nashville, Fredericksburg, Virginia, which small town that we didn't really think, like, it's a bigger town, like area in Virginia. Phenomenal. Like 5,500 people through the door the first show, like bunch of vendors. Everyone did really well. Everyone was really happy. Like support, like just phenomenal. Nashville jumped on because the Exotic Pet Expo left Nashville. And then we've, this is one of those things like where we'll get like comments like, why are your tickets not $2 like the old Exotic Pet Expo? Like, because they couldn't sustain themselves at $2.
Yeah.
That's why they had to stop.
It's not petting zoo edition, dude. Yeah.
No, we're not trying to bring you in to come pet animal and like see stuff. We're trying to bring you in to to spend money with our vendors. Like if you can, for me, if I go to a show, like a trade show, which I don't, I'm so stinking busy that I probably should go to more just so I can see like how things work on other ends. But like, I don't go to the door and go, that's too much. Hey, whatever. Unless you're telling me $1,000, I'm not going to be like this is too much. Like I came here to do this. I'm going to go do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
So Nashville turned out really well. So that's going on this weekend as well as Castle Rock. So that's where Troy is. Yeah. So Troy will be there. And then Scottsdale will be the first time there. And it's been phenomenal turnout for that. Like the amount of support and outreach and all that's worked out well. We've got a full show. So that's great. Ticket sales are phenomenal. So we're happy with that. Like that's going to be cool. But where this really like evolves was I did a bunch of plant stuff during COVID. Like I was selling plants like crazy from Indonesia and all that. And I was like, we should have the plant side of this. Like they marry each other. People put plants in vivariums.
Of course.
We're all a bunch of collectors that spend our money on dumb stuff and
tons of overlap. Yeah.
And that's Castle Rock. We've seen like a phenomenal amount of crossover now. Like plant people that came the first time, they're like, I came for the plants. Now I have geckos because like I really liked it. Yeah.
Like I remember this last one. There was like they were growing a bunch of different mushrooms for like supplemental mushrooms, not the trip your balls off kind. Like the legal variety. But yeah, no, it's amazing. It's super cool. It's such a nice. The thing that surprised me too is like I anticipated a little bit more. I don't know, like shyness or reservation from other people, but it's like I go there and it's nothing but nice people. Like everybody's really nice, and I'm like, this is awesome. I like nice people.
That's what we like love too. And Castle Rock's our absolute favorite show because like, bless you. Like when you walk in, we want it to feel like excitement. We want people to be excited, to be ready to like go in and have like for it to be fun. We don't want it to be walking around like looking at this flea market like I'm whatever, this is cool, but like they're not like, we want it to be exciting, we want it to be enjoyable for people. And like when you walk in, we want it to be like, oh wow, this is awesome. Like I want to go talk to the vendors. And that's a big one for us too. Like vendors that we feel don't actually care to be there, don't come back. Like we're all doing this hopefully because we love it, right? If you're into reptiles, I don't know how you could not love the reptiles and try to sell them.
Be weird.
Be really hard. I feel like you'd just be mad all the time. which there are some people like that.
What's not to love? They're so great.
Yeah, well, most of the time, until you get a comment that ball pythons suck.
Ball pythons are the worst. No,
Yeah, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I love them. I think they're great.
Yeah, well, everything is. They're all reptiles. If you don't like all of them, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
I completely agree. So that's really rapid. Like I'm surprised that it took, like it's, oh wait, oh, you're still there. Okay.
Swear.
You held still and I was like, he cut again. It's
I'm just I can sit so still.
pure stoicism. So, I mean, that's pretty, so how did it go, did it feel weird or challenging to go from doing one locally to doing one out of state? And let me piggyback. Let me add a little bit onto this question, and that's how is your view of this different now compared to when you started? Like, in other words, were there things that, like, what are some things that were unexpected challenges in putting on the show?
So, it evolved very quickly. Like, we went from, all we had to do was rent the things that we were doing in Castle Rock. We're like, oh, let's rent the tables and rent the pipe and drape, and we'll just get there and we'll set it all up ourselves and all that. And so like Charlotte obviously was the exact opposite of the country. Like as far as I could possibly get over, not as far over, but as far as like realistically we could get. And to run that from across the country was actually not as hard as I thought it would be. The hardest part was actually just the venue staff that we were dealing with in Charlotte. So like that's a huge one for us. If the staff is phenomenal, oh my gosh, like the show is going to just be so easy. Okay. We in Castle Rock, our staff's great, and Fredericksburg, the staff is phenomenal. Like they want to advertise to make the show happen too. They're like, oh, we have a billboard, you can put it out there. We got like send us flyers, we'll put them out at all of our shows that happen, and like they want to grow it as well. So like that was the hardest part with Charlotte. Like that just they were like, oh, you're gonna have this building. We want $8,000 for Wi-Fi. Just like, absolutely not. That's not how that works.
8,000?
Yeah, 8,000. I'm not even an exaggeration. It was an $8,000.
Darling, bro, come on.
Yep. And they and the building itself was 72,000. Like stupid amount of money for how big. Like, and it was a pre-war building, so it was garbage. So that one was like the hardest part was just like we had to go out and talk to vendors ourselves. We were coming from an opposite side of the country. None of them really knew of us that well. They knew of us, but not, hey, they're running a show, like I should trust them. Yeah. And so that was one of the harder parts, like getting the vendor support and making sure that we have like vendors trusted us. And us flying out to these other shows to talk to them really proved like, hey, they're going to do this. Like, they're not joking around. They didn't send me an email and say, hey, join our show. See ya.
Right.
Like, we went to the shows and we talked to people. So that helped. But it was not as hard as you would think. But I've been running a construction company for 12 years. Like, I deal with homeowners, like, every single week, like, multiple homeowners, like, things getting chipped in, like.
Oh, I lost him for a second. We'll be back after technical difficulties are resolved. I'm sure it'll bounce back here any second. Hey, there it is. We're back.
I could hear you the whole time still. It doesn't make any sense.
I heard you were frozen for me. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
No volume, no nothing.
So weird. And my Wi-Fi didn't move at all.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's okay. It'll be good work for Charlie. He'll cut it all out. That guy's the man, by the way. Okay. Because what I was thinking is I was wondering, like, in my mind, I could see these two things kind of being true, right? Like, I could imagine if the city where you're putting on a show has a lot of reptile stores, then that might indicate a very large market of reptile consumers, right?
Yes.
But then if you're, but I could also see the opposite in the sense that if there's no reptile stores in the area, there might be higher demand because it's an underserved market, right? So maybe both are true, maybe both are not true. Like, what is some of the data that you guys have found? You know,
that's actually funny. So Charlotte has one reptile show or reptile shop in the Charlotte area. One
specialty, but they have Petco,
yes.
PetSmart.
Yeah, they've got Petco, PetSmart. Not,
but
there's
it's
like
not
a couple. It's funny because for how populated Charlotte is, there's not a whole lot of those kind of things. Super odd. But so like the one specialty reptile shop, Cold Blooded and Bizarre, they do a phenomenal job. Every time that now that we're not going back, we get so many messages, but the amount of people that were like, we needed this here so bad, like, because the next closest one is a Repticon, which is 45 minutes away, that they call the Charlotte show, but it's 45 minutes away. So like that market, a bunch of people wanted stuff. It, like I said, the market was interesting because it didn't seem like they had enough money to spend. So that was interesting. And then Fredericksburg again. There's no reptile shops in Fredericksburg. There's DC. You actually can't sell reptiles in the DC area, which is about an hour and a half or an hour north of Fredericksburg, and then Richmond's an hour south. So like not a whole lot of shops there. So that was like a desire because there are shows out there too. I've just been there for a very long time. And then like Arizona, there's a ton of reptile shops.
It's huge out there.
Yeah, which is why that was why we were like, let's look at this market. We've had a little bit of a pushback from the other local show, which was not intentional for us to come in there and step on toes. It was just dates that were given to us, and we're like, we really want to work together in this and grow the industry in a way that it can. And there's 4.4 million people in the Phoenix metro area, so that's a lot of people. But that's where that sports happen. Colorado's got so many reptile shops, like
it's actually a lot.
Colorado. And so like that, I think has proven that the show does really well. Like, because a lot of people come through the door and they spend their money. Like that's important. Like the number of people.
I've sold out each one I do.
I mean, you're bringing something that absolutely no one has. Like that's a really fun. But for it being Colorado, it's not like everyone across the United States is flying into Colorado to buy from you, right? So that's important too. So it's we've seen a little bit of a correlation of both. Kansas City has a good amount of reptile shops. So that's where it does hit like, okay, maybe not.
Interesting. That's so weird. I mean, I was never sure. I think I think data like that can be really, like revealing. I'd be super curious to see, like if it was possible to access it, some very large data set, about like, to see what all the sort of the common through lines are between a show that goes well versus a show that doesn't. Because I'm guessing that even shows that are mainstays, that are great, huge, massive undertakings, they're still going to have their ones that just don't go that well.
And there's just periods like that, right? Like, so this weekend people could come in and not spend money. We have no idea. There's no possibility for us to predict that. We can do the same things that we do every time. I can put as many bus stop ads as I possibly can in Colorado, and I can put as many yard signs out as I could possibly keep up. Because people take them down like the jerks that they are. But like, we started with radio here, and now we do forums to try to see how people we were heard of. We do title sponsor giveaways to see, hey, how did you hear about us? So we can follow that data and continue to do it. Social media, billboards and bus stop signs, yard signs. Radio is no one really listens to radio anymore, so that just doesn't really work. And then like there's things that I'm sure that we just haven't tried, right? Like, do we try TikTok more? I feel like that's where I'm maybe a little bit outside of that generation.
Might I suggest podcast sponsorship?
There you go. Yes, which is like we do, like that's what we love to do, is like sponsor the things that we enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and help grow the people that are in this industry that are like doing things for the good of the
Sure.
industry. I don't want to sponsor this pet store that is killing the animals that come into their place more often than not. Like
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. But like those are the methods of advertising. Like, what do we do, right? Like, and then we bring out like influencers,
Yeah. Snake
reptile
discovery.
influencers. So Snake Discovery came to Castle Rock. Clint will be at Castle Rock this time, which is Clint's Reptile Room.
Yep.
Uh, as well as Rocco Elliott, who's like a plant person, plant rapper. Uh,
Epic.
yeah, so he'll be there. Dave Kaufman comes to a lot of our shows. So Dave's going to be in Nashville.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Nice.
yeah,
A plant rapper. Like what?
yes,
Like he raps about plants.
he does.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
yeah. That's sure to be gold.
yeah, yep, yep. I don't have him performing because I was like, I don't know how to set that up yet, and I don't know if I entirely want to.
I mean, Snake Discovery blew my mind. Like they
Oh
had
yeah.
a line all weekend out the door that was just hours long, and I was like,
What
whoa,
was
dude.
phenomenal about that too was like the conference room, and I don't know if you can hear my child screaming, but that was a good scream.
No.
Um, the conference room, like set up to have that line go in there, was that if those people were not there for the show, they could leave immediately, and
Yeah,
like it didn't make it feel like all we did was cram people in there to see Snake Discovery.
yeah, yeah,
So like
yeah.
that was what I really enjoyed about that was like the amount of people in the main room was still packed so tight, and the
Crazy.
everyone else was outside. It wasn't like I just brought people in
Yeah,
like with we didn't bring people in with Snake Discovery. Like it felt like okay, everyone's still here to do this, like
yeah,
to come buy
sure,
stuff.
sure.
Like that was one of the concerns was that are we just going to make it fill full? Like we don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
you could also have the other problem, which is like I went to a concert one time, and the band that I wanted to see was the opener, and I didn't care for the headliner,
uh,
so I just went and I saw the opener and left. Because like
oh
I'm just not interested. Like it was a long time ago. It was Rise Against, and they opened for My Chemical Romance, and
oh
I'm
yeah
like, I want to see Rise Against. I couldn't give a damn about My Chemical Romance. And so then, I mean, but the thing is, I wasn't the only one. Like a huge percentage of the crowd left, and I was like, "Oh no,"
yeah.
And
And
and so,
that's what we didn't want, right? We didn't
yeah,
want
yeah,
it to feel like people were just leaving.
right,
Like so that was cool that it like and I had to sit outside. That was
sure.
wild. I didn't think I'd have to do that for a show ever. I sat outside and just told people that's not the line into the show. That's
Uh-huh.
for Snake Discovery. And a lot of the people that would walk up and be like, "What's Snake Discovery?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, well, go on in. Go into the show."
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So
so interesting. How
yeah,
fun. So,
yeah.
so then what do goals look like for you now? Now that you've got some years under your belt now. You've done a bunch of shows in different locations. You're starting. I'm sure every time it gets a little more streamlined and a little more straightforward. So, or what are your guys' goals going forward for All American?
So for All American itself, the goals are to really refine like the vendors that are in there, refine the sizes of the shows, the number of people we can like obviously feasibly get through. Like I can throw 20 grand at advertising, and if no one comes through the door,
Yeah,
like that's just a crapshoot. No one really knows what happens. But the goals are to like really refine the education shows, really refine like the timing wise, because I really like the education side of things, but it's getting people to understand that that's happening. Because I don't want to take away from one of my vendors and say, hey, come stand in this room, and then 3 people come in and they're not in there selling. Like that's, I'd never like to do that to somebody. So we want to refine that a little bit. We want to add in some stuff like education corners that can
oh yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
we work with our vendors of like, hey, this is your animal. Like, how do you care for it? And we produce stuff for people like that.
Yeah.
So that we can help facilitate those kind of things so that someone doesn't leave the show and like, oh, I bought this animal, but I don't know how to take care of it.
Mhm.
Like they can walk over to the education booth and be like, oh, here it is, right? Like if
Yeah,
now if someone walks up and they've got a xenogama and
yeah,
no one's given us the care sheet for it, like that
sure.
may not happen. But like the goal would be to have something similar to that,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they can learn that stuff. And it's also to like start to work together with like these bigger companies to help sponsor and bring in people to have that education and start to learn, and across the board. Like, if we have sponsorship from Palm Street, like I want to work together with you on how people can be on this and how they can learn on your platform, how they can learn from us, and how we can all grow together.
Yeah.
So as far as All American goes, like I think we want to max out at like 10 shows a year.
Wow.
5 areas. So two shows a year for each area, and work towards that. And right now it feels like that's where we're at, and
Yeah.
where we try to just, hey, where do we refine which show we want to be at? Do we want to be in this area? Does it feel like it's not growing? Does it feel like it's not capable of doing it? Do we want to go somewhere that really needs it? And we often hear from so many people where they want to have a show. Hey, come out here, come out here, come out here, come out here. And it's like, well, that area doesn't work because everything's unionized, and the tickets are through Ticketmaster, and we have to have $30 parking. So it's like, just won't work. But that's that goal there. There is some like ideas that we have that we're like, okay, do we do like more specialized show, like more of a symposium? So we're working on some of that kind of stuff and like different aspects.
Something more like something that would lean more to a symposium would be mostly educational, perhaps with some commercial.
But yeah, so it's definitely educational, and then like sort of like a gala as well. Like I was thinking of something like that would help legitimize the industry and bring us together as like as the leaders of the industry, rather than just hey, we all go to a show and try to sell stuff. Like, it would be times for us to collaborate and have this industrious side that we've talked about, right? Like, how do we build that and how do we push that? So,
okay, I like that quite a bit. So what do you think is like the largest? What would you say is the largest challenge, or the most? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it could be just pure bandwidth. Like maybe the thing that's limiting it at the moment is just the amount of stuff that you can focus on. I would imagine that, in another, not saying this is your situation at all, but like money could be a situation, like a limiting factor for somebody, or maybe just pure attendance could be a limiting factor. Like, what if you had to aggregate it? Is there one, or are there 3 things, or what does it look like?
Hours in the day.
Huh?
Hours in the day.
Hours in the day. Hours in the day.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's a huge one for at least myself.
Right.
Which would be, can I transition from one thing to another and move in ways? Yeah. I've always considered that, like, if I want to make something happen, like the money aspect is sort of just like that's just a thing that I have to overcome and hurdle. So it's never like I've never held.
Oh, there it goes. Cut off again. This is sick. I'm glad it's not taking up much, because the little that this does take up, Charlie will just cut it. It'll be perfect. Nobody will even know. Charlie, you're the man. Thanks for doing all this. It'll come back. I know it.
Oh, my connection's unstable.
You did it. Yeah, back again. Okay.
So odd. It's never done this.
It
Never.
It happens. Roy, but my former co-host had Starlink, and he would just cut out half the time. A lot. He would cut a lot, and he was always like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "It's fine. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, he's just gone. So where was that, the money part?
Yeah.
So like, that's been one that I'm like, it's sort of just a hurdle. And we're going to figure out how to make that happen. So like we were like, hey, I'm tired of spending $6,000 on tables here and $6,000 on tables there. Let's buy the tables.
Yeah.
So we bought the tables. Sure. So we have the tables and all that. So like, that's been that part of is not really like, that one's not a bad hurdle. Attendance definitely within shows is like a hurdle. To figure out in different areas what brings in people easier, and like, we can look at a lot of different things. So Kansas City, the last time there was a Renaissance festival and like an art festival and all this stuff. The art festival brought in 200,000 people.
Whoa, that's a lot. And you're gone again. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh man, oh man. Be funny if it was live. That'd be hysterical. There, back again.
There it is. I'm gonna pull this up and see if it shows me that my service is bad or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe it's
but
windy or something. I don't know.
oh, Troy's thinking that he would have watched. I'm getting all these text messages now. All right, it could be. Is it windy today? I
I
didn't pay
don't know. I have
attention.
no idea. I don't know. It hasn't been too windy. I know it was really windy yesterday and the day before.
Yeah, yeah. The day before, I had to get my guys had to get off the job.
Oh,
Um, it was so
yikes.
bad. Like it was blowing pieces of siding off and all that. So I had to get them out of there.
That's-
Um, who knows why my Wi-Fi is being funky? Says it's online. No outages found.
Okay. All
Oh,
right. Well, no big deal. No big
yep,
deal.
just fighting me. So yeah, like Kansas, the attendee stuff, like it was those giant events were happening. So maybe they pulled away from that. Who knows? Like really, what causes so much of it? What causes you or I to say, not going to go to that. Like I'm fine with doing this.
Yeah.
So that's like a hurdle in different areas, right? Like I think in Castle Rock we're just so like, hey, I guess if this many people came through the door, like we're still happy with this area and like what it does, and we would never leave Castle Rock because that's just silly.
It's so
Um,
good. It's such a good location because
yeah,
it's not that far south of Denver, really. It's like not.
no,
And it's not far from like Castle Rock itself is growing like crazy as a city, and it's closer to some of the southern cities, right? Like Colorado Springs and Pueblo. So like
you know,
people will come up. I mean, I think it's like a perfect location. It's awesome.
we always joke that like when we go into a new venue, like which obviously every single venue has been new for us until it's not,
Sure.
and uh, we're just so spoiled by Castle Rock.
Yeah.
Like like it's just a beautiful area. Beautiful, like the building, even though it's a steel building, it's beautiful, like taken care of well, and it's clean and it's nice. You don't get in there and you're like, oh, there's definitely cows and horses that they put through here
Yeah.
occasionally. Like they clean it after these 4-H events and all that. So
The HVAC is designed for that. Like you go to the
yeah,
National Western Complex and we go do these jiu-jitsu tournaments and it is sweltering inside there, or it's
yes,
freezing inside there. Like
yeah.
good luck having a good reptile expo where that in a place where that's the case.
That's it. Yeah, and that's also one of our biggest hurdles there. Like for growth, if we want to go into new areas, venues, the things that we need is good dates.
Mhm.
I don't want a middle of July date.
Yeah.
Like animals dead outside, like
Yeah.
sweltering hot
Yeah.
inside. Like it's hard to keep up with stuff. So like Charlotte, the building couldn't get cool enough. Like they couldn't cool it down. So like people were walking up like, why is it so hot? And I'm like, I'm trying, guys. Like,
Yeah.
that was in September. Like, so it wasn't even the hottest.
Would
Um,
would you ever consider doing an expo in another nation?
I've thought of that,
Okay.
right? Like, and then you just have to think about where.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, like Canada. I have no idea.
yeah, and like Canada's got some really good shows.
Yeah, yeah,
So like us to go up there and like fight with them because like that's hard too because
yeah, sure.
you think of America with 350 million people and then Canada with 31 million people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
like, and then it's really spread out too. So
Yeah.
it's like, where do you go? Where do you fight with? Because like the Toronto Expo is really good and the Ontario Expo is really good. So it's that's what we have to take into account too. Like, okay, where's like a show that has a lot of people? Like, we'd never go to Chicago. Like, Tinley's right there.
Yeah.
Like,
To do one in Abu Dhabi,
Abu Dhabi.
Dubai. Yeah, do one in Dubai.
Yeah, get all the top dogs to fly out there and
Dude, I will bring the most expensive animals I can imagine. I'm just kidding. Like you know what I mean? Like some of those oil princes they'll buy. Come on.
oh,
You don't have one of these. Get one. Let's do it. You got
well, that would be like a really cool, like fun hurdle for me to like think about. I'm like, that would be really, could we do it? Like,
Cool.
could you do it? Like, obviously you wouldn't find vendors really there, but like, so like you'd have to coordinate getting everyone there too.
Yeah.
So like that would be a cool one. But I've considered like, do we divulge a little bit and we have like a herping trip that's off of All American, right? Like we're like, hey, we're going to like, Lauren and I like to travel a lot, so like we're going to Costa Rica. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do this as like a travel thing as well. So like
Like an
that kind of stuff.
expedition.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Man, that would be. I know a guy. There's a fella who's been on the show, and he's actually. I've got another show scheduled with him. Is Brian Minna, and
Okay.
him and his gal do herping expeditions, and he's always posting stuff up
Yeah.
from Morocco and wherever. And I'm like, oh. And he always like will send me a picture of like when they find a euro somewhere. I'm like, God damn it, like
Like,
yeah,
I wish I was there. And
yeah,
and now like with a kid, like it's even harder.
yeah.
Like you're like, hey, honey, do you want to go on a herping
Yeah.
trip?
I mean, even getting away for the Scottsdale Expo not this weekend, but next weekend is gonna be it's gonna be a
Yeah.
thing. I mean, it's fine. It's great, and my mom's gonna help too, and it's totally fine. And it's only for a couple of days, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, going away for something bigger is so hard with a little when they're this little. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
oh man,
And then us starting this in the period of when they're little,
yeah, yeah,
they're 3 and he turns 2 actually next weekend.
that's great.
So I was gone 5 weekends in a row
Oh,
uh, there, and it was like, okay,
yeah,
this is hard. And part of it was a funeral that they came to with, and part of it was me flying to Arizona for literally, I flew in Saturday morning and I flew out Sunday morning.
yeah,
Like, so like trying to fit in that kind of stuff too. But that is a harder one to navigate, like being gone from kids when they're young. And I'm going to miss his second birthday. And I've said to myself, I will never do that. And
yeah.
now I have to drive to Arizona to get the tables down there. So I'm like, I'm just going to have to miss it.
Yeah. Damn, dude.
You won't remember, but I will.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, with that in mind, I know. So we're coming up on almost 90 minutes here, and in an effort to be respectful of your time, because I know you have an expo this weekend, and I'm going to be there, so I'm excited to see you.
You're
Huh?
going to be setting up some stuff too, so I'm sure you got some stuff to get ready too.
I do. Yeah. I've got to get all my crap together, and I'm going to bring Thomas I, Ornates, J. Rye, maybe a handful of weird geckos, and then some of my food. Like it's. I mean,
Troy's probably going to watch this and be like, Nick, you have to find like the animals that I want. Like, because we went to Tinley and he's calling me like, hey, do you want to buy these together? Like,
yeah, dude. Yeah, tell him. Phil's here and he's got Thomas I. And I'm sure he'll want it. But
that I want some too.
they're special. They're a weird little lizard. Yeah, they're really special. They're like some of the ones. One of the ones I'll bring. I'll make sure to point him out to you because he's only like this big. He's like
Okay.
3.5, 4 inches. Clearly a little male. So blue. He's so blue. For like a little tiny Thomas I. He's so blue. He's really nice and he's real spicy, which is the coolest. But anyway, with that in mind, there's 3 kind of closing questions that I want to ask you. And the first is, what is the thing currently that excites you the most about herpetoculture?
I'm excited for like the growth of new people that are passionate about the animals that are different.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that we're not just getting people into it. There's like, oh, look at ball pythons make a lot of money, or hognose make a lot of money, or leopard geckos make a lot of money. They're like, I want this weird little spherodactylus gecko that I can keep on my desk at work and be able to see all the time. Like that is exciting to me. Like the amount of people that are really getting into the obscure species that aren't necessarily even that obscure. Like they probably breed easier than we think they do. They just aren't bred that often.
Yeah. That's kind of what I think about everything. I feel like I say very often that the things that we think of as extremely difficult or very difficult to breed probably aren't that difficult once we get it all figured out. And then the things that people think are extremely straightforward and simple are much more involved to get consistent, long-term, viable reproduction out of. It's like everything falls in that mid-range on some level.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's not spectral to some degree, but yeah, that's a great answer. I agree with that. How do you think herpetoculture might look differently from today in 50 years and in 500?
Okay. So 50 years, obviously, there's so many factors that could happen with laws and silly stuff. I think we're going to see a lot more captive breeding, a lot more specialty. Like these animals are now not considered just like, oh, I'm going to bring it home and it's a pet. It's like it is something that they're going to spend more money on. They're looking more towards, hey, this is something that's going to be in my home. It's going to be my pet, but I'm going to spend more money than $25 for this little lizard to live in my house. They're looking at it as like a pedigree animal, like a dog or a cat. I think that would be something where it transitions in that way in 50 years. And I think obviously there's going to be different species that are now the forefront of the industry. In 50 years, that could be banded geckos.
Yeah. Very well
You never
could
know.
be.
Like leopard geckos have done it, bearded dragons have done it, corn snakes have done it, like ball pythons have done it. Like it could be a jeweled lacerda.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I think that's happened. Like will happen something that we may not think that is going to be like, oh, no one likes those. It will be the forefront of the industry. 500 years from now, I mean, that's going to be essentially the evolution of dogs. So like in 500 years, you could have these monitor lizards that are so bred and so they're smarter than anything now. They could be the next household pet that is domesticated. Obviously, there's a degree that it won't. Their evolution won't change that much, right? They're not going to suddenly be warm blooded.
Like a lot,
Yeah, they could change a lot, but it won't. There won't be warm blooded. They won't be for the amount of time that they've been around. They haven't changed from cold to warm. So like they would have to like live in your home as like have warm spots and all that kind of stuff, but. It will be more of a domesticated animal like a cow or a dog or anything like that if we continue in this trend of people being interested in it, which clearly is very large now.
Yeah. I think it seems to me that the further out you put your time frame for reference, the more likely you are to see things that you're not going to expect. Like there's just as much chance that I heard this said, the way it was put was someone who's thinking quite clearly will understand that the past and the future may be more likely to resemble one another than the present does right now. And I think that if we're looking at a 50-year time scale, I still think there's going to be substantial changes, I again, another piece that I wrote on my Patreon about, what could the next 50 to 100 years of herpetoculture look like? And, I basically had two frames of viewing it. One was from the reference that say there's a lot of heavy-handed legislation and we get like a very limited number of very diverse looks of a very few species, right? Yeah. Or there's this other scenario, and this is part of the one that involved the global south, which is we get this, not just the sort of the generational shift that we're seeing with newer folks coming into herpetoculture and exotics now are more interested in more unique and more diverse things. But also when you have the rest of the world start to participate, it just might diversify the whole thing across the board. So it was sort of two potential futures. And my hunch is it's going to I think it's probably not going to go the diverse route because there's with the exception of horticulture and maybe aquatics, like freshwater fish.
Yeah.
It's any of those domesticates, they're pretty
narrow. Yeah.
We all have one kind of horse for the most part. There's some breeds, of course, but they're all intermingled. We all have one kind of cat for the most part. Yep. We all have one ferret for the most part, one guinea pig, one mouse, So I don't know. I mean, I again, that's where I feel like there's a tendency for the future to resemble the past in many ways. But there's just so many things coming down the pike, I think that the number of knobs and levers that you can play with in herpetoculture might lend itself to more diverse perspectives on the ways of doing it, So we may not have so many people who are, there just might be weirder ways people push and pull these things,
Yes.
And so then the last question, this is the one we ask everyone, or that I ask everyone. I guess it's I now. I can't say we anymore because Roy's not a fucking guy. We love you, Roy. We miss you. Is why herpetoculture, and you can take that as broadly or as narrowly as you like. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. My favorite one is Phil Tremper's to this day that it's a disease. So I love that one. That's a good one.
Certainly is. Why would why do I like spicy food, or why do I like sour food? Like it just is, and it's just sort of who I am. And like, Lauren often asks me, she's like, why do you have these scientific names in your head, or why do you have all these like facts about these things? I don't. It just is. Like I read it and it just sticks there, and it is part of who I am. I just couldn't. We talked about earlier. I don't think that if people are getting out of the industry because they got in and all that kind of stuff, like if I got out of the industry, it means like that there's some bad happening. Like this industry is going down if I got out of this industry.
Or
I wouldn't get it. It's just who I am, and it is so unique, and the beauty of like the animals that we work with is so different that I just couldn't consider anything else. Like I have way too many project animals now. I've transitioned away from the ball pythons, and I've got colodes, and I've got Gecko Propadoa, and like I've got like the obscure species. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want that. And now the shows make it so much worse.
Sorry, I coughed.
Good.
Sounded like I said Thomas I, but it's just weird.
Yeah, but that is the hard one for me. I want to have like a bunch of desert stuff too, but I also have like these very humid rooms now. I'm like, can't kill them, but I do have a warehouse, so it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean anything. So like that. The shows is the worst thing that I've ever decided to do, because now I just walk around the show and I'm like, that's really cool. Like, I have one of the vendors. We were in Kansas, and he had these T-negative Cuban nitinols, and he was like, I'll give him to this much. I was like, okay. So I've got a albino male and an albino female. Yeah. They can see and they can do all their things. So that's what matters to me.
Those are great animals. Those are great looking animals. I love them. Okay, awesome, man. Well, tell listeners where they can follow you and keep up with what you're doing, both personally and All American.
So Sloan Reptiles, you can mostly on Instagram is where you're going to keep up with anything that I post on there. Also, Facebook, it just sort of cross goes. But if you're going to message me or anything like that, Instagram's going to be it. And then All American, you can find us at allamericanreptileplantexpo.com. There's no and in that, just to make it shorter. You can find that same thing on Instagram and Facebook. Humanitix is where you find all of our tickets. We can find us in Castle Rock, Kansas City, Nashville, Fredericksburg, and Scottsdale.
Excellent. Awesome, man. Well, Nick, thank you so much. This has been a super, super cool, interesting conversation. I hope we can have you on again in the future, especially as more things change. It would just be great. I'm always looking to get interesting folks like yourself who have interesting thoughts about the way all this works. So thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to hit stop on the recording.